Is there anyone here who is dependent on Jesus? Who is totally dependent on Jesus? Like, without him, you feel helpless. You have nothing without him. You're dependent on him for all you want. Okay. So is that everybody?
Yes.
We thank the Lord God Almighty.
Thank you, Jesus.
Now, who has completely given themselves over unto God? You've given your every waking moment to him. You have from heads to toes, people are giving it all. You acknowledge that everything is from him. You acknowledge that everything you have is for him. And you acknowledge that everything you have is in him. Even your very life. The will, your will, is the will of Christ. Your desire is that of Christ. I'm hearing less and less yeses. Is that the case? Is it yes for everybody? You see that it's the same thing with the two questions, just a subtle difference. You're reliant on him for what you want. Everyone said yes. But then your will is completely his will, and you all said what? Yes, his will is your will. Okay. So does anyone have the book of Isaiah 8, verse 18, very quickly? Don't worry, I'm saying yes to the same things too. So don't get scared. There's not any trick here. Isaiah 8:18, yes. Behold,
I and the children whom the Lord had given me,
yes,
are signs and for wonders in Israel.
I and the children whom the Lord have given me are what?
Are signs and for wonders in Israel.
Are you and all your children and your whole family for signs and wonders?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to John 9 from verse 1 to 3.
And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man
Yes.
which was blind from his birth.
He was blind from his birth.
And his disciples asked him, saying,
They asked him, saying,
Master,
Master,
who did sin,
who sinned?
this man
This
or
man
his parents,
or his
that
parents
he was born blind?
that he was born blind?
Jesus answered,
Yes.
Neither hath this man sinned,
This man has not sinned.
nor his parents,
But why was he blind?
but that the works of God should be made manifest in him.
So that the signs and wonders of God, Jesus Christ, may be made manifest in him. So I ask you now, if the Lord is telling you that his signs and wonders, you said you and your family are made for his signs and wonders, right? If the Lord is coming asking you today that I'm going to make your child blind for the rest of his life for my sign and wonder, put your hand up if you're going to accept that. No, but you didn't put your hands up. People have no choice. But you just said you and your family are for signs and wonders. But when his sign and wonder is for blindness and poverty, you don't want to sign up for it, do you?
No.
So we're all liars then, aren't we? And it's funny, but that's the truth. We said our desire is the desire of God. Yes, if his desire is to harm us or our children, then we veer off. We don't want to stay in that same lineage anymore. The man was blind from birth, not because of any sin, not because of any punishment, not because of anything his parents or his ancestors have done, but for one simple reason, so that the name of God could be glorified. It is that simple. There was no reason behind it. There was no justification. There wasn't any calculation. There wasn't any math. There wasn't any Pythagorean theorem. Nothing. It was as simple as, because I want to be glorified, this man is going to be blind from birth. And that was the desire of God. I tell you again, we can't say any of these things until we're completely ready to take the will of God, no matter what it is. It cannot only be the will of blessing. It cannot only be the will of joy. It has to be. What was the word that was just said? The word of the week that was just said. Get close to the Lord, whether it is what? On the mountain or where? Or in the valley of humiliation. But we never want to be in that valley of humiliation if that's where Christ is. If Christ is in the valley of humiliation, we say, we'll wait for you up here on the mountain, Lord. When you come back, we'll be right here waiting for you. Because we choose and pick when we want to stand with God. In Jeremiah 10 verse 23, Jeremiah said, I know, O Lord, that a man's life is not his. And that is our biggest problem, is we continue to think our life and the life of our children and the life of our families and the loved ones that we have are truly ours. I'm sorry to tell you, you were bought a long time ago. You were purchased with the blood of Christ, and your life is his and his only, to do with as he wishes. And until you give into that, until you accept that, you cannot understand God. There's no understanding of him. We've heard the story of Job 1,000 times. How Job fought and proclaimed his righteousness. What he didn't understand was his righteousness didn't matter. All that mattered was the plan and desires of God on his life. And in that moment, the desire of Christ was that the devil try him. That was it. And his only action there was to allow himself to be tried by the devil. That was the only thing he could do. That is it. If you get behind your steering wheel of the car that you bought with your own money and you decide to drive it into the woods, can the car do anything about it? No. If you decide to get drunk and get behind your car cannot control you driving it and running into a rail or running into a wall. And that's all we are. We think we have more control than we do. We think we can protect our lives. We think we can protect our children. But it is the Lord who protects. My sister was making fun of my wife was giving one of my kids yogurt or something. And my son goes, Mom, is that organic? And my sister almost died laughing. Going, how does he know what organic is? But that's what she does. That is how she raises them. But that doesn't protect them from anything. If the Lord desires to put something on them, God forbid, it is his will to do it. Organic or not, it is not going to deliver them from anything. And that's why we have to understand the God we serve and the fact that our lives, everything we are and everything that we do belongs to him. Look at Elizabeth. Look at Mary. When the angel came to them and promised them that child, you saw the celebration they had. But imagine if they came to Elizabeth and said, you will have a son, and that son is going to die at the age of, how old was John the Baptist? And he's going to die this way. You think she will take it as joy? Or if they came to Mary and said, you have a son, and the rising and the falling of the, but he's going to die at 33 on the cross. You think she'll take it as blessings? No. No. But that is the will of Christ. That is the will of God. It is his will. It was his desire. It is his will to take the spouse of somebody. It is his will to take the child. It is the will to take a parent. It is his will. And we have to be in his will. John 6:38. See, the thing is, we trust God when it comes to deliverance. We can't trust God when it's time for victory. And you hear us when we sing the song, victory, victory, everyone is jumping, throwing their hands up. But when it's time for turbulence, we don't trust him then. We don't. We don't trust that it's him putting us in there. Everything is, it's the world that is doing it. Who do you think the world has to go to for permission before they do anything to you? Yes.
For I came down from heaven.
I came down from heaven.
Not to do mine own will.
Not to do mine own will.
But the will of him that sent me.
This is even Christ, when he came as an example to us. I did not come into this world to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. Yes.
And this is the Father's will.
And this is the Father's
which
will.
hath sent me.
Sent me.
That of all which he hath given me.
Thank you. We can stop there. It is the only thing we are here to do is to do that will of Christ. Again, have you submitted yourself to him to the point where your will, his will, is the will that you have within you? That your desires are the desires of Christ. Have you gotten to that point? Have you reached that level? Because we were fast to throw our hands up. But when we know what the true will of God is, are we ready to accept it? Are we ready to let it be our will? We'll go through this verse very quickly. Matthew 14. It's the story of Peter and when he walked on water. You see, we believe Christ. We believe his words. We believe that we're beautifully and wonderfully made. We believe that he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. But we don't believe in Christ. When you believe in him and you know you're with him, then you know anything you are going through or anything you have in you, he has complete control over. And whatever reason it is that he's doing what he wants, you know that you are cared for. Period. Yes.
And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea.
Verse 22.
Oh, it's okay. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples
Yes.
to get into a ship.
Jesus told them to get into a ship after he preached to the people. Yes.
And to go before him onto the other side.
And to go before him onto the other side.
While he sent the multitudes away.
Yes.
And when he had sent the multitudes away.
So he had separated from them. Christ sent them away because he wanted to go be with the Father. He sent his disciples away. And he said when he had sent them away, what happened in verse 24?
He went up into
He went up into the mountain. Continue.
apart to pray.
Yes.
And when the evening was come.
And when the evening now came.
He was there alone.
He was there alone. So he had separated from the disciples at this point. Yes.
For the ship was now in the midst of the sea.
Because he had separated from them, the ship had now gone into the midst of the sea. Yes.
Tossed with waves.
Tossed with waves.
For the wind was contrary.
For the wind was contrary.
And
Once Christ said, but just pause there. We're going to go through it. Once they separated from Christ, the wind now began to toss them. And it tossed them into the middle of the sea. It is very simple. There is no story there. When you separate from Christ, that's exactly what happens. You will get tossed into the middle of the sea. That is what separation causes. You see that saying again from the announcement. When he's in that valley and we decide to stand on the mountain, we will get tossed into the middle of the sea because Christ is no longer with us. That is exactly what happens. When you think you're thriving, when you think everything is going so well, and you've forgotten the source from whence it came. You've forgotten to continue to pour that back into Christ. You've forgotten to continue to hold on fast to that robe. It's not only when you have the issue of blood that you grab onto the robe of Christ, but even more so when you feel you're in good health. That is when you hold on to it to make sure you are not tossed into the middle of that sea. It is easy to find Christ when you're in trouble. It's easy. That is the best time to look for Christ. Because you have no other option. You have nothing else. That is all you have. God deliver me. God save me. And we'll hear about it later on in this reading too. But when everything is right and you feel you are king of the world and you're standing on that mountain, don't forget who put you on that mountain in the first place. Don't separate from him. Even if for that moment he says you have to go into the valley. I was watching our basketball, my brother yesterday, and the commercial came on when he stepped away, where there's two basketball players who have dealt with mental illness, depression. And they were talking about the fact that you need to get yourself checked. And when he came back, I said, this is crazy. How people this rich could have mental illness. And even, these are people who are making 10, 15, 20 million dollars a year. You give that to some people for one time, they will survive with their next 7 generations. These people get it in 1 year. And somehow they find a way to spend it all too. And yet, they're in depression. Because Christ is in the valley and they're standing on that mountain by themselves. That is the sea you get tossed into the middle of. Children ending up on drugs because they just have the money to do it. That is the sea you get tossed in the middle of. Your marriage exploding because all of a sudden you have money and other people are looking at you. That is the sea that you get blown into if you do not cling onto Christ. The wind was contrary and it moved them into the middle of the sea. Yes.
And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them.
Now in the fourth watch, Jesus went unto them. I want you to understand something first of all. Let's define what the fourth watch is. The Roman Empire broke the night down into 4 watches in 3-hour breaks. So when the evening starts at 6 p.m. to 9, that's the first watch. 9 to 12 a.m. is second watch. 12 to 3 a.m. is third watch. Now 3 a.m. to 6, the last one before you wake up, is the fourth watch. So they said when the evening started was when the wind started with them. So at least, at minimum, from 6 to 3 a.m., 9 hours. Not that God did not know what was happening, because He knows it all. They were getting tossed for 9 hours in the middle of the sea. 9 hours. I don't know if you've gotten on a plane before. I think it was 5 years ago. I don't remember. My brother was saying we were going to the convention in Texas, I believe it was. It was probably 30 seconds to a minute where the plane was dropping. This one had gone past turbulence. It felt like the plane had ceased and it was just dropping. Even the pilot was already, everyone was so scared. And it was funny because I looked back, I looked at my brother. At this point, it had to be at least 6 years because I wasn't even married yet. I didn't have kids yet. I looked at him and I'm like, wow, he has 2 kids. What's going to happen to those kids? That was what I thought about. And then I'm sitting there. This was 30 seconds where we felt like the plane had lost control. It was done. Now imagine 9 hours of looking at the face of death for 9 hours and saying death is coming surely. And Christ just sat down on the mountain talking to God. Hey God, how are things going in heaven? I know I've been away for about 30 years. How are things going up there? How are my angels? How are the 7 elders doing? Oh, he didn't iron the sultana before coming into the church today, man. And he's hearing turbulence and they're going, Jesus, Jesus, please save us. And it's like, we'll just put mute on that one. Me and God are talking now. 9 hours. But that's why I want you to understand. When they say a day to God is like 100 years to us. So, sorry. I'm even trying to manage it small so we can relate to it. So now imagine 9 hours. If you put that on your life, I don't know. Your fourth watch could be 40 years. It could be 400 years. It might not even be something you get in your own lifetime. It might be your children's children that receive that promise. What was it? The children of Israel. God spoke to Abraham and He said, you will be strangers for 430 years. Abraham was the one that heard the promise. It didn't come into fulfillment until 430 years later. You think your turbulence is going to end today? I don't know. It might not end for the next year. It might not end for the next 5 years. It might not end for the next 10 years. But you know what? You're still alive. And He's still with you. I don't know what your fourth watch is. But imagine this, facing death for 9 hours straight. And Christ is right there in the mountains. And He's leaving you to enjoy the wind. Enjoy being tossed up and down. But that was His will. That was His will in that moment. Do you think who orders the wind? It is Him.
Yes. You
think He didn't just go, guys, go, and turned around, it's like, wind, get up. And He just walked away. It's as simple as that. I don't know what winds the Lord has commanded to get you, but understand that it is His will. Do you believe in Him though? Yes. And that is what you need to demand here. Continue that reading and see what happens.
And in the fourth watch of the night,
In the fourth watch, yes.
Jesus went unto them,
Yes.
walking on the sea.
Yes.
And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea,
Here's the best part. Yes.
they were troubled.
First, the tossing and turning wasn't enough yet. Then he didn't even announce himself. He came like a ghost. So the fear of what they were going through wasn't enough. Now to come on top of that, you now see something walking on top of water again. That's what you call wahala on top of wahala. It's not even enough already that the Lord has given you a child that you have to struggle with day and night to raise because there is some kind of ailment with that child. Now he pours poverty on top of you again. He pours struggle, joblessness on top of you again. Not only do you have that struggling marriage, but he also takes joblessness on top of you again. Why me, oh Lord? Is this not enough that we're in the middle of the sea already? You send a ghost to come and torment us again? But little do they know, that ghost was their deliverance. When the ark was built and storms were pouring against it, weren't Noah and his children crying? It's tossing them left and right. But what did that flood end up doing? It lifted the ship on top of a mountain. The storm, the flood was what lifted them up onto that mountain at the end of the day. That is the will of God. In the middle of that storm, though, we have no idea what is going on. We have no clue. And C.S. Lewis said it best. You cannot know. You can only believe or not. That is your choice. That is all. You cannot know. That's the bottom line. God will not let you know. Imagine it. I just said it. He didn't let Mary know her child was going to die. What do you think she would have done with Jesus? She would have locked him up in the basement somewhere and kept him there for 34 years just to make sure he passes that clock and then let him go out. But he will never let us know because we will not make that decision according to his will. We'll make the decision according to our flesh. That's all we'll do. Do you believe in him though? Yes, continue.
And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea,
yes,
they were troubled, saying,
yes,
it is a spirit.
It is a spirit.
And they cried out for fear.
They cried out for fear, yes.
But straightway,
yes,
Jesus spake unto them, saying,
but then Jesus spoke and said what?
Be of good cheer.
Be of good cheer.
It is I.
Yes.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid. It is I. God has shown up now. Christ has shown up. He said, be not afraid. It is I. That's when people get calm. And even the wind stopped at that point. Even when the wind heard the voice of God, the wind calmed down and bowed down. That's okay. Our leader is here. These are the disciples of Christ. These are the ones who walked with him. These are the ones who fought with him. These are the ones who stood with him. At this point, the other, 70 or so, they had escaped. They had run away. They said this teaching is too hard. How can anyone listen to this and live? But the ones who stood by him, these are the ones who are now suffering. I'm coming to tell you though, that it's not about what you deserve. You think you deserve better because you give alms. You think you deserve better because you're the first to put your name on the list of people who are going to cook for church. You think you deserve better because you've raised the most money for the building. You think you deserve better because you dance the most when there's thanks offering. You think you deserve better because you've read the whole Bible 3 times over. You think you deserve better because you are kind to everyone. You think you deserve better because you always have mercy. It is not about what you deserve. It is about the will of God. It's that plain and simple. And what you have to ask yourself though is, do I believe in God? It just hit me. When you beat a child and the same child comes back to come and meet you later on when they're crying, it is not because of anything crazy in them. It is because they believe in you. They believe in you. That after your rod, there is always a staff to comfort them. That is the only reason why. And that's what we have to do too, is believe in God. I don't know what storm you're going through. I can't promise you that the relief of that storm is near. Maybe you're just in the first hour of it. I have no idea. It might be your first watch and you still have 3 months to go. I don't know. I'm not here to promise you deliverance from any torment you're going through. I am just coming to tell you that as long as you are doing it right and it is of the will of God, stand fast with Him. Just stand fast in Him, because there is a reason behind what He is doing. And you just need to do what? Trust Him. That is all. Your life is not yours. As it told us in the book of Jeremiah, it is not yours. And that's the first thing we need to do. You say, I surrender all. What is the all you're surrendering? You're surrendering the 4 hours from 10 to 2 o'clock on Sunday. That's about it. And even that, you don't fully surrender. Because you check your phone 4 times to see if you got a text from work, or you got a call from work, or you got this from your sister in Nigeria, or you got that from your brother in Jamaica. Even that, you don't surrender to Him completely. I was at my barber shop yesterday, and they were talking about borrowing people money. And it's like, I don't borrow people money if I know I can't give it away, because sometimes you just can't get that money back. And he now talks about a guy that he borrowed money last November. And the guy said, I just need a couple of months. A couple of months means 2, at worst 3 months. November, so you go December, January, February. He said, we're in May. This guy didn't even act like he owes me money. He hasn't brought it up. He hasn't said nothing about it. I'm calling him up. He's not picking up my phone. So on my birthday, I get a text. Happy birthday, man. I wish you blessings. So I text him back and I go, oh, thanks. I appreciate it. But sooner or later, we're going to have to talk. But here's the best part of it all. The guy writes back. It's like, what was it? Relax, young man. You're going to get your money soon. My barber goes, oh, hell no. You're going to write to me, young man, on my money? But this is 6 months later. His own money. The guy now writes back, young man, you're going to get your money soon. He doesn't say a word about the money for about 7 months now. Money that he'll get back in a couple of months. But that's the same thing we do with God. He owns us. And we're telling him, Lord, I can only give you 10 to 2 today. On Wednesday, maybe once a month, I'll try to show up for service, but that's it. I can't read my Bible this morning because I'm running late for work. Who owns that time that you're running late on? Who owns that life that you have? Who owns that job that you're running to? Who owns it all? That you're telling that I don't have time right now? Who owns all that? Who owns your life that you're telling that I'm not happy in the situation I'm in now? Who the heck cares if you're happy or not? All that needs to be happy is the one who owns you. And that's what you need to ask. Look at him and go, I am crying in my situation, Lord, but if it brings you joy, then I will take it gladly. That's why I said, not my will, but yours be done, O Lord. He said, let this cup pass me. Christ wanted the cup to pass him too. You think Christ wanted to go through the suffering? You think he wanted to suffer? You think he wanted to hang on the cross? But he said, as long as it brings you joy and it fulfills your will, Lord, then I will suffer it. That's why Paul said, I will not let this thorn come out of me because it brings you pleasure. You have said it, oh Lord, that this is what you want, then I will want it too. The world is not cupcakes. That's not life. Life is not sugar and tea. It's not. Sometimes you'll lose a loved one like our brother over there. But the belief that you have in Christ is to show up the next day in church and say, I know it was your will, oh Lord, like he did. I can never demand that sort of test. I will not demand it. Even if it is the will of God. That is why I say we're all liars. Because I will follow wherever you lead me. But yes, we're saying we will not follow me to the valley. We'll wait on the mountain for him. That is what he wants you to do, though, is look at the big picture. Not what your desire is in this moment, but what his desire is for you. Please continue that reading very quickly.
And Peter answered him and said,
Yes,
Lord,
Lord,
if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water.
And here is our problem. Here's what we do. When we've gone through that storm and we've gone through this, we have this rush of adrenaline. And we're like, we'll do anything for you, Lord. We're like that young rich man who says, I have kept the law. I have done everything that you need me to do, oh Lord. Now I believe. I have seen what you have done. The moment after a miracle is the greatest moment in the life of Christians. We are so beautiful then. We really are. When somebody does something miraculous, oh my God, the way that child came, oh my God, oh, the people that have been praying for children for years, they finally got it. This is the God we serve. We know what the Lord is. And that's when we're ready to fly, even when we don't have wings. We climb on the building and we're ready to jump because we know the Lord will catch us. Because we just witnessed the miracle. And then what happens? Continue.
And he said, come.
And then Christ, when he hears us begging for him, he's like, yes, this is what I want. This is the passion I've demanded from you. But the sad thing for us is it's all lip service. We move close to him with our lips, but our hearts are still far from him. Yes.
And when Peter was come down out of the ship,
when he came out of the ship,
he walked on the water.
So here's the first part. Christ is the one that called him to come on water. Now you know Christ is involved in your situation. You're not, there's no doubt. You're looking. As I see Sister Hopefully here, I know that Christ is right in front of me. This is what Peter was dealing with at that point. Yes.
He walked on the water to go to Jesus.
He walked to go to Jesus.
But when he saw the wind boisterous...
Let's stop there for a second. Let's forget what Peter even saw. How can you be in the presence of Christ and the wind is still attacking you? That's what I want you to understand. That your being in the presence of God does not protect you from trials and tribulations. It doesn't keep you from it. The boisterous wind will still find you. This is Peter who sees Christ like day. He's standing there. We heard the words 2 days ago when Sister Tammy. Yes. Why not me? Why me? Why me, Lord? I cling on to you. Why me? Well, that boisterous wind still gonna find you. Even when he was standing in front of Christ, he was in the presence of Christ. Our Father and Lord is always doing it in his prayers. We know in the presence of God there is what? Fullness of joy. There's also fullness of boisterous wind. This is the, I didn't make it up. This is the story here. He hit him. So no matter what you're doing in Christ, don't think your service to Christ is going to get you a reward of blessing, of victory, of upliftment. Sometimes it might put you in chains. Because that is what the Lord desires. I'm just here to tell you not to get it confused what your service to God is going to get you. It is not going to get you flowers and candy. Sometimes it gets you a rock thrown at your head. That is just the truth of it. Because it is what? The will of God. And what starts to happen to Peter?
He was afraid.
He was afraid.
And beginning to sink.
Now, this is the same person that just had his belly turned for 9 hours at least and saw Christ deliver. He sees wind coming again. He has forgotten that miracle already. And this is why I say we believe God, but we don't believe in him. We believe that God will deliver us, and when he does, we celebrate it. But we don't remember the next trial that comes. We forget him quickly. We forget his power quickly. And that's why we get into this place where we're now begging, we're praying, we're tormented, we're doing all these things. This is Peter that was just delivered less than a minute ago. He was already forgetting, he was already living in fear. But this is where you start to see the growth in him. What did he say once he started to sing?
Lord, save me.
He said, Jesus, save me. At least he had gotten to the point where he knew, if nothing else, Jesus what? Saves. At least he had graduated that part of his faith. And that's why when Christ now talked to him, he didn't say, oh, ye of no faith. What did he say to him? Oh, ye of what?
Little faith.
It's an organism that needs to grow. That's all it is. You don't just wake up one day and faith is stamped on your forehead. Trials, tribulations, habits, continuation is what builds it up in you. What you need to demand though, as you grow, is look in the mirror and go, are the same trials still tormenting me today? Why am I still crying over this? Why am I still worried about this? Is God not seated on the throne? You need to start checking yourself. Because if you don't start to develop yourself, believe me, the Lord God Almighty will have absolutely no pleasure in you. Stand firm in God. Again, it is not about what you did. If you read, I think it was Luke 23 from 40 to 41, the one about the thieves. The thief on the right hand said, do you not fear God? Don't you know that we are getting what we deserve? But listen to that. They were getting what they deserved for what they were doing. And Christ, who had done nothing, was there, getting what he didn't deserve still. Again, just to explain to you that it is not about what you deserve. It is not about the hours of prayers you have put in and what they're supposed to get you. It is simply about what God demands of you. That's all it is. How do you make a man blind from birth just so that you can be glorified? This is the God we serve. And if you look at the two lessons that were read to us today, again, just to kind of wrap it all up and tie it all together in there, it's just warning us that we not lose that word. We not lose that word. He said to the church in Philadelphia that you've kept that little faith that you have. I gave you little, but in that little that I gave you, you've kept your faith. And because of that, you will be blessed. And he told the church in some, you're losing that faith. Find it again. They said you have things that resemble life but are dead. It is their faith. Their works were for everyone to see. They were strong worshippers. But the faith within them was dead, which is what God is looking at. Do you believe in him? That is all he wants from you. He doesn't want you to ask him 900 things. He doesn't want you to ask him 1,000 things. He just wants you to believe in him. It is not what you ask, it's how you ask. Let this cup pass me by, but not my will, but yours be done. Listen to what, let this tribulation pass me. But if it is your will, oh Lord, grant me the strength to walk through it. That's the part we always forget. Because we don't want it to be God's will. We want our will to be imposed on him rather than the other way around. I want a job today, oh Lord, but if it is your will that I do not get one now, grant me the means to survive. That's all it is. That's all it is. I just started a new job this past Monday. And the funny thing was, I've been getting prophecies for 1.5 years now. Oh, there's a job coming for you. There's a promotion coming for you. There's a this coming for you. I didn't know that was the first watch. I was sitting down there. I'll go to work the next day and I'm like, I'll be looking at my boss. I'm like, I just want to meet with you, look at my performance and, do my performance evaluation. That's when the accent comes up. But, I think I've been doing a lot of work lately and I was really hoping you'd, just do a 360 evaluation on me and let's do a performance. I don't have time. I'll meet you till another time. The guy that promised you promotion leaves the company. And like, okay, the Lord likes to show off. He's going to bring a bigger miracle. The second watch comes out. You have a new guy that can't stand you at all. And then tells you you are complete rubbish. Then the third watch comes and they start telling you you're actually even failing at this point. You're not even doing a good job. And then the Lord shows up in the fourth watch. And then he'll say, okay, now, that prophecy, Yannick. For some people, it's 7 years, it's 10 years. And that's just a small thing. That's even, honestly, I don't even see it as anything. Because it's the grace of God and he'll do what he's going to do. But, people are going through things. People are going through things. Life-changing events. Things that will turn you upside down. Things that you cry about day and night. But I need you to stand firm in God. I need you to stand firm in Christ. Be vigilant. That is the only way you're going to attain your salvation. Philippians 2:13. And Joshua 23:8. Sorry. Just those two.
For it is God,
yes,
which worketh in you,
yes,
both to will,
both to will,
and to do of his good pleasure.
It is God who does what?
Who worketh. For it is God which worketh.
So this is what I want you to understand. Don't be too hard on yourself. You cannot, of your own power, decide to live in the will of God. You can't. Because it just said, it is God who does what?
Which
Who works
worketh
in you.
both to will
Both to will
and to do of his good
and
pleasure.
to do of his good, to take on his will. It is God that has to turn your heart to do that. But for him to do that, you have to do one thing and one thing only. And that is believe in him again. That is all he's asking for. Because when you believe in him, he will work in you. Then it becomes his will and not yours. Then anything anyone does to you doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. You don't fight any fights anymore. You don't struggle with anything anymore. You don't see trials and tribulations anymore. You stand like Paul and you don't see chains anymore. You see an opportunity to please God and do his will again. That's all. Every trial becomes an opportunity to impress God. That is what you see trials as at that point. This is an opportunity again for me, oh Lord, to show you that no matter how long or how far, I will continue to yearn for you. But he has to work inside of you for you to turn that way. We can't make exceptions. It can't only be on the mountain that we stand on him. Does anyone find that Joshua 23:8? Yeah, Joshua 23:8.
But cleave unto the Lord your God,
Cleave unto the Lord your God,
as ye have done unto this day.
as you have done unto this day. Cleave unto the Lord. When you cleave unto him, Jeremiah 13:11. Ibrahim finds that very quickly. When you cleave unto somebody, you're holding them. So even when he goes into the valley, where are you?
For as the
You're in the valley with him too. You're in the valley with him too. When you've cleaved unto him, but you know what the difference is? You know, you're listening to his heartbeat the whole time. So no matter who is doing ooh behind you, you know you have Christ. What did he say that, Jeremiah?
For as the girdle cleaveth to the loins of a man,
The NIV says as a belt. Just so these people don't know what girdle means, you know. As a belt cleaves unto a man, yes.
so have I caused to cleave unto me.
So have I caused
The
you
whole
to
house
cleave
of
unto me.
Israel.
Thank you. That's just what I want you to understand. When a child is crying, what do? We carry the child. I just want you guys to imagine very quickly how you carry a child. And that's the point you want to get to with God. Where you are wrapped around him, your legs are wrapped around his waist and he's holding you. Because here's the incredible thing about it. Even when you sin, I want you to think about it. When your child is standing in front of you and you slap that child, you get full momentum. But I'll look the engineer. What is the formula again? To slap somebody. It's the speed. Okay? The mass of your hand versus the acceleration to hit their face creates force. Okay? And that's what creates the mark on their face. But when you're carrying a child and the child does something wrong, how do you beat that child? You can't get full motion. So when you're cleaved unto God, even when you offend, he can only spank you like this. It's not the full force of his anger that you get. But even when you are in sorrow and you're crying, where are you? You're already on his bosom and you can rest on it. That's why he said like a belt. That's why I've made you. You cleave unto him like this. Because when you're in sorrow, you're right there on his chest. He's consoling you. When you offend, he can't really beat you. He will spank you. Yes, he'll twist your ears like mommy likes to do to me. But that's the worst of it. You still know you're there. And that was the thing David understood that made him so beautiful with Christ. He was completely wrapped around Christ. So even when Christ wanted to punish him, he was right there. The same Christ who punished him was the same Christ who was consoling him. Because he had cleaved unto Christ. He had been carried. That's why he said, be like little children. Because that's what God wants us to be. So that he can carry us and hold us. Until you get into that carried position, you have not believed in him yet. And the only way to get that is to completely be sold out for Christ. Surround yourself with him. Live in him. Read his word. Feed on his word. Find everything within you to stand firm and say, God, I know no matter what is going on, I am in you. No matter what I'm dealing with, I am in you. And you will continue to hold me. And just the last verse. I have to get off here before I start getting signs and wonders. Very quickly. Yeah, I think I pasted my notes too many times. But bottom line here is, we learned from Peter on how we let our faith grow. We learn from the woman of the issue of blood, who just trusted as long as she held on to Christ, that everything in her will be saved. And she did that, and did the Lord not save her? Complete faith and total faith is not only based on when you're standing on the mountain. Even when you're in the valley, you need to believe in Him. That is all the Lord is demanding of you. He's not demanding 900 prayers. He's not demanding 1,000 thanks offerings. He said your bulls, your offerings, your all these things, they don't do anything for me anymore. Yes.
Who shall separate us from the love of Christ?
Who shall, this is when you clinged onto Him at this point. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Romans 8. Yes.
Shall tribulation?
Shall tribulation?
Distress?
Distress?
Persecution?
Persecution?
Famine?
Or famine?
Or nakedness?
Or nakedness?
Peril?
Or
sword?
Or sword?
As it is written.
As it is written.
For thy sake we are killed all day long.
For His sake. As long as it is for His sake. Yes.
We are counted as sheep for the slaughter.
Yes.
Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors.
In all these things we are more than conquerors. Yes.
Through Him that loved us.
Through Him that loved us.
For I am persuaded.
For I am persuaded.
That neither death.
Oh God.
Nor life.
Neither death, nor life.
Nor angels.
Nor angels.
Nor principalities.
No principalities.
No powers.
No
Nor things present.
Nor things present.
Nor things
to come.
Nor height.
Nor height. Nor death. Yes.
Nor any other creature.
Nor any other creature.
Shall be able to separate us.
Shall be able to separate us
from the love of God.
From the love of God. Which is in Christ Jesus. Which is in. If you believe in Him, is when you can tap into that love. Which is in Christ Jesus, not outside of Him, not without Him, but in Him. And to go in Him, you have to walk on water, and you have to let that wind hit you. And you have to stand firm and still say, I believe in you. So one thing and one thing only is Christ asking for you, and I'll get off here. Hebrews 10:9. What do you need to say now? That is it. That is all the Lord is asking of you.
Then said He.
Lo,
I am come to do thy will.
I have come to do what?
Thy will.
Stand in front of Christ and say that, and every one of your problems will be gone. I didn't say it might be gone here on earth, but I can guarantee you that the crown of eternal salvation will be yours, which is all God cares about. May the Lord bless His holy word.